As February slid into March and the days lengthened, our village looked forward to warmer days. The snow was melting, and the sap began to rise in the maple trees and in our veins. But for the Wood family, one major obstacle loomed before we could embrace spring: our semi-annual visit to the dentist. For reasons known only to my father, he took us to a nearby town to the same dentist he had since he was a boy. Perhaps he considered it a rite of passage for his sons, like circumcision. But even at a young age, I could do simple arithmetic. My father was old. Therefore, a dentist whom he went to as a boy must be truly ancient. He would have been trained when the only tools of dentistry were a pair of pliers and a hammer and chisel. So naturally, these trips were dreaded. Nonetheless, one gray March morning, we would find ourselves piled into our old green Ford Falcon station wagon, 3 sons quivering in the back seat, our father grimly gripping the steering wheel, and our mother beside him singing quietly to herself. What, you may ask? Singing? You see, she wasn't going to the dentist. She so hated dentists, she avoided them until her jaw was dropping off. So she was looking forward to a day of shopping, traipsing up and down the aisles of Eaton's, while we males suffered elsewhere. On the road, we hoped for a sudden blizzard or a flat tire to sabotage the trip, but inevitably we would arrive at the town. After dropping off our unfeeling mother at Eaton's, we would park in a decaying snowdrift near the dentist. Then our father would herd us up the office stairs like lambs to the slaughter, into the waiting room and that too familiar dental office smell, a mixture of antiseptic, tooth dust, and terror. Once trapped in the waiting room, we brothers would jam ourselves into a window seat in the vain hope that when we were called in, they would not be able to extract us from the seat. Then the front door would open to call someone in, and 3 young boys were all quietly praying, "Don't let it be me." But of course it was me. As an adult, I have seen the movie Green Mile several times, and I can identify with the condemned man making that terrible journey to the electric chair. As I walked into the dreaded room, the dentist, would always say, "Just climb into the chair, it'll all be over very soon." I suppose he was trying to be reassuring, but all I could see in my mind was him carrying my poor lifeless body out to my father in the waiting room, saying, "I'm very sorry it turned out this way, but, he wasn't brushing very well, was he?" Nonetheless, I climbed obediently into the chair, hoping that meek compliance was the best course of action when facing someone who could inflict pain. I always tried to avoid looking at the prominently displayed tray of sharp, shiny instruments. These very scary tools should have been covered up from young, impressionable eyes. I have since heard that in medieval dungeons, just the sight of instruments of torture was enough to persuade many poor wretches to confess. I know at that moment I would have confessed to anything to get out of that chair. One device I could not avoid looking at was the drill, an amazing cantilevered apparatus with many pulleys and belts ending with a sharp, pointy thing near my mouth. At that moment, the dentist would say, "Open wide, let's take a look." 1, 2, 3, 4 cavities. You've been at the candies again, haven't you? Well, we've got some work to do. By which he meant I was going to pay dearly for every sweet I'd had in the past 6 months. Before I could protest my innocence, he stuffed my mouth full of cotton wads so that my screams would not terrify my brothers huddled in the waiting room. He then threw the switch, and the pulleys and belts on the drill tower began to whir, and a sharp pointy end emitted a terrifying whine. Gently kneeling on my chest, the kindly dentist aimed the drill at an offending cavity and muttered, "Hold on, this may hurt a bit." I held on, sinking my fingers into grooves on the arms of the chair, carved by generations of terrified boys. I could feel my jaw vibrating as the drill ground its way through the tooth, looking for the tender nerve like a heat-seeking missile. Yow! A bolt of electricity shot through my heart as it found the target and continued excavating. "Ah, that looks better," said the man at the pain-free end of the drill. "Let's just clean that up," as he sprayed a jet of cold water on the exposed nerve. After jamming some quick-drying cement into the gaping hole in my molar and scratching his initials on the filling for good measure, he would cheerfully announce, "One down and only 3 more to go." I think at that point I must have fainted, or maybe I had a small stroke, because the next thing I remember was the dentist saying, "Well, that should hold you until the fall." I sprang out of the chair, reborn, and floated down the hall to the waiting room. Bursting joyfully through the door, I pointed my finger at my middle brother, still cowering in the window seat. "You're next. I'm going shopping."